If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome, friends, it's the MovieFilm Podcast. The MovieFilm Podcast, enjoy the show. Jackie and Brian are talking about movies. MovieFilm Podcast on the radio.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. When the stakes are high.
If my $20 billion are not delivered, the hostages will die.
He's the best there is.
Now, who wants to go home? And who wants to go with me?
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Raul Julia. Street Fighter.
I'm the Repo Man. And you're out of business.
Rated PG-13.
Welcome to a movie film commentary track. My name is Zaki Hassan. I'm here with Brian Hall.
Harukin!
Brian, it is 2025. I have to say, Brian, it's 2025. We, I don't mind letting the audience in on this. We started our Patreon last year, and we did okay for considering we just started a few months ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big difference this year than closing out the previous year, and it's just been so gratifying.
It's nice, and it occurred to me as we sit down, we don't have to do this commentary track. We can all go home.
Yes.
I mean, we got paid pretty well, and maybe Street Fighter gets talked through by somebody else, because you and me, we can all go home.
Yes.
But Brian, I gotta say, I'm not going home. I'm gonna hit play on Street Fighter, and I'm gonna kick this movie in the ass so hard the next Street Fighter wannabe is gonna feel it.
Dude, I was waiting for so hard. Bravo.
So Brian, who wants to come with me? So we are here to talk through 1994's Street Fighter, and I have to say this comes after many years of requests, and I don't even know how many people at this point have messaged me, sent emails, and been like, "So you're doing Street Fighter, right?" And we're doing it, baby.
We're doing it, and I've probably said this before, but I've never seen it before. This is the first time I've watched Street Fighter. 31 years later, I guess.
Yeah, 30 years and 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna have a fun discussion. This is one of the first big video game adaptations that was ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a big deal in the history of that particular subgenre, and we certainly have some thoughts on this. This is not a. Here's what I'll say about Street Fighter: it's not a well-liked movie, but it's also a beloved movie. You know what I mean?
I can see that.
It's one of those,
Yeah.
And so I think, oh boy, this will be a fun one.
Yeah. Well, I have much to say, but I'll save it for the commentary.
All right. Well, we are watching the one and only cut of Street Fighter, the one that was chopped down from an R rating in order to get a PG-13, but they chopped it down so much that they got a G.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing that, but but okay.
So there is only one cut, and it's the one we're going to watch. Hey, if you want to cue it up. Now, just to be clear, this is 1994's Street Fighter, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia, directed by Steven E. D'Souza, not to be confused with 2009's Street Fighter, The Legend of Chun-Li.
Right.
Which is, in all seriousness, that movie is so bad it makes this one look like The Magnificent Ambersons.
Yes, with what's that actor's name from Election? Chris.
Yeah, Chris Klein.
Chris Klein. Yes.
Yes, it's a legendarily bad performance.
Yeah, I've not seen that one either, but hey, who knows? Who knows how long we'll be doing this?
we may get there eventually.
Yeah.
But if you want to watch along with us, you can certainly do that. Otherwise, Brian and I are going to do our thing. We'll try to keep our conversation engaging enough to keep you going while you're doing whatever it is you're doing. Whatever martial arts katas you're engaged in, we'll try to accompany you.
Yes.
So, hey, Brian, you ready?
I'm ready.
So we're queued up to. There's 2 Universal logos. We're at the modern one that goes into the older one. So we're before the modern Universal logo.
Mm-hmm.
And here we go on 3. 1, 2, 3, play.
Whoops, got my sound on. So I guess I should note that I'm playing. You're streaming it, right? I'm playing my Criterion disc. It's kind of funny that they have the 2 logos here. Usually they replace an older logo with a modern logo, but here they're like, they keep the old logo, Universal logo, but they slap the new one on before it too.
Well, because doesn't well, you got to have like that classic feel, because for to accompany a classic.
I love it. I mean, it makes me think of Back to the Future, right? How they have the old MCA.
Plus, like this, the logo directly goes right into the. See, you got. Come on.
That's why they did it.
JCVD's name.
Yep.
Right up there.
Yep. I do love that, by the way, when movies play with the logo. Like I think of Edward Scissorhands and how it's snowing on the 20th Century Fox. And
well, Universal did it with the Waterworld.
Yep. I think The Matrix does it too, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Shadaloo.
Things are tough in Shadaloo.
Yep.
Which tends to happen when you have a jackbooted red sort of pleather clad madman.
Yes. That suit. I mean, I know we'll get to all that, but that suit's got to be one of the best. Something from like an animated, origins or video game origins translated to real life.
Oh, absolutely.
It looks incredible. And he cuts a striking figure with that cape and with the suit and the hat and everything.
I think, and you and I were texting about this earlier. I was like, say what you will about this movie. Raul Julia showed up.
100%. He is. He's like giving an Oscar performance, and it's sort of like what people say about the Muppets Christmas Carol, where everyone says that movie's amazing. Because
by the way, sorry to interrupt you, but I love that in the credits they give a specific credit to the creator of the bison costume.
Yeah.
Which that tells you something right there. Anyway, you were saying.
No. I just a lot of times you see when people are saying why the Muppet Christmas Carol is so great is. They're like, Michael Caine showed up and didn't say, I'm going to act with Muppets. Like, I'm going for an Oscar,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think you could say the same here, which is okay. I did not know what I was getting into with this movie. Truly. And it's funny because I watched Mortal Kombat from 1995 for the first time for one of our commentaries.
That's right. A couple of years ago. Yeah.
And while that movie winks slightly, it's not a tongue-in-cheek film. It's my memory. Like it takes its, it's not deadly serious, but it's just, I don't know, the world itself takes itself seriously. But I was not prepared for what this movie was going to be, where Bison would have cocktails with his logo, on the sort of like toothpicks for the fruit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is silly.
Oh, I find this movie uproariously funny, and not unintentionally, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah.
They knew what they were doing.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't know the movie was actually aiming for that.
Yeah.
To be tongue in cheek.
So here's Van Damme just stoned off his gourd.
Yeah.
Apparently he was high as a kite while this movie was being made.
Yeah, getting paid $8 million, high on cocaine and cheating on his wife with Kylie Minogue.
But real quick, what he's like, "Hey, Bison, look at this," and he does kind of this, and I'm like, what are you doing? Is this like wrestling trash talk?
Do you think that's him improvising, Van Damme?
That's what I wonder.
He's like, I have an idea.
Now, here's the funny thing about this. So now Bison cuts into the transmission.
Yeah.
So you've got Guile and Bison sort of talking to each other, but Guile is looking into the camera.
Yes.
So, like, what is he seeing?
I know.
As Kylie Minogue, of course, as Cammy.
To be fair, though, that's kind of what happens in Batman '89 when the Joker interrupts the speech by the mayor.
There you okay. Fair.
Yeah, but it's like the Joker is so funny and fourth wall breaky, where he's like moves the other monitor's image aside, even though that doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
But it makes sense to us, so it's fun. So, I mean, let's dig in. I was never much of a Van Damme guy, and I think
sorry, I don't mean to cut you. This sequence right here, it never fails to crack me up because you got you got these prisoners, right, the hostages, and Guile's buddy Charlie is one of the prisoners. Now, dumbass Guile's like, Charlie, hey, I'm coming for you, buddy, and the look on Charlie's face is like, Ixnay on the Arliche.
yeah, right. That's really funny.
Now, what's hilarious here, first of all, he's like, Carlos, Charlie. I'm like, at that point, I'm like, no, it's Carlos.
Dude, I had the same thought. Yeah.
What's funny, though, is the movie is built on this non-existent relationship between Charlie and Guile.
Yeah.
Which, like, it's so funny because you'd think that would be set up like what would make sense is you start out with the two of them together, and in the process of some kind of kerfuffle in the beginning, Charlie is captured.
Yes.
So you've established that they're buddies.
Or at the very least, you would see Guile going through some sort of like photo album, and it's pictures of them at boot camp together, or so. He
has a VHS tape that.
That's right. Well, it's not a VHS tape; it's like some weird Super 8 tape that he. But he's like playing it while he's driving.
Okay, sorry, you were saying.
No, I don't even remember. But
we're talking about Van Damme, and actually, so this.
Now I want to talk about these guys. Yeah,
we'll get here in a second. Van Damme being in the movie was one of the main requirements by Capcom.
Yes,
which is, I will say, it was an odd ask.
You know what? See, that's what I'm trying to reconcile in my mind because, like I said, I wasn't a big Van Damme guy. Mm-hmm. He was always we have Schwarzenegger at home for me.
Sure.
When we were kids. But I think part of that might have had to do with I wasn't allowed to watch R-rated movies and whatever. So I wasn't watching Bloodsport and whatever. And I wasn't necessarily missing them. So I wasn't getting endeared to them like I think a lot of people our age were.
Yeah.
So just all I have is I have no relationship to him. And watching him in this movie, I was like, what were they thinking?
Yeah.
I mean, he has no charisma. He has... I don't know if that's even the right word, but like he doesn't feel like a human being.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't, I don't know. I don't get any sense of him as a character in a film.
No, I agree with you. And I don't know what kind of a draw he was by 1994 because, he had kind of a minute, and I would say his minute was in the early 90s.
Yeah. But at the same time, maybe for then kids my age who are like, oh, my friends seem to like Hard Target and Bloodsport and these kinds of movies. It's almost like then he suddenly becomes accessible in this PG-13 movie or something.
Sure.
Like they know who this movie's for. This movie's for like 12-year-old boys.
And my sense is 12-year-old boys love the hell out of it.
Probably, yeah.
Now these two guys, Ryu and Ken, I played the game when I was a kid, and my sense was always Ryu and Ken are the main characters.
Same.
Now, what's amusing to me is this movie can't decide whether it's Ryu or Ryu,
which is hilarious because I always thought it was Ryu.
Yeah, well, that's what Damien Chapa, who plays Ken, was struggling with. Is he was not able to pronounce Ryu, and I'm like, how can you not pronounce Ryu?
I know. I know.
Like, and so Steven D'Souza's like, fine, it's just Ryu. But if you listen to the movie, it goes back and forth.
Oh, that's funny.
So Byron Mann, who plays Ryu, I think he's very good in this. I wish he had more to do. I just saw him recently. He's in The Big Short. He's the guy who talks to Steve Carell about CDOs.
Oh, interesting.
And Carell's like, you are an incredibly big piece of shit.
Wow. Kind of like to see it again now.
Just for that. In my head canon, that is Ryu. Like after
yeah, after this.
All the Shadaloo stuff didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, look, I didn't find Ken and Ryu. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to say it the way it was meant to be said. I didn't find them wildly charismatic either, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I think the guy who I think Damian Chapa as Ken is like actively bad in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't want to go out and just say it, but yes, it's kind of, yeah, they should be, I don't know, like the comedic relief for like the two people we relate to, because they seem the most relatable in this adventure, and they just felt sort of like I was watching some old canon movie or something, you know? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So here's poor Charlie being turned into the Hulk.
Yes. So this is where I realized for the first time what this movie was doing. You know, they're basically Clockwork Oranging him.
Yeah.
Right. Putting all these images in front of his eyes. But then it's like a man and woman getting married. You know?
No, that's
the kindness later.
That's the good stuff. Yeah.
The good stuff later. Yeah. No, sorry. Yes. The bad stuff is, one of it is like actual footage of a man being executed.
Yeah.
Which I found.
Yeah, right there.
I was like, good Lord. That's why I find that G rating suspect. I mean, PG I'll buy maybe, but like, come on.
Possibly. Maybe it was PG. That would make more sense. Yeah. So here's Roshan Seth as Dalsim. He's of course from Temple of Doom. He's Chatar Lal.
Yeah.
See, this movie was Steven D'Souza's first time as a director, and it betrays many of the hallmarks of a movie like this with a scale like this. By the way, I love the Mountain Dew and Red Alert or whatever that they're plugging into Blanca, but it's clearly overstuffed, and the director is being pulled in too many directions, and it strikes me that when I watched this, I was like, guys, just make a tournament movie. It's Street Fighter. That's what people want. That's all people want.
Well, and that's what the game is. That's what the story of the game is.
And what you realize is the studio did not want a tournament movie.
Yeah.
To which I say, or not the studio, the game company. And I'm like, well, guys, do you not know your own product?
I know. It's baffling.
This is a movie, again, even though it is called Street Fighter, it has 0 street fights in it.
Yes.
And it has barely any fights in it.
I know, and they're not particularly spectacular.
Yeah.
Which seems like, speaking of D'Souza and everything he was up against. So first of all, he was talking with Capcom, and Capcom, the game company, was like, we need all of these characters included in this movie.
Yeah.
And D'Souza was like, that's too many characters. The audience can't. He's like, if you do the math, that comes out to 6 minutes screen time per character, or like giving them something to do or some sort of story. And he had a really funny note where he was like, name the 7 dwarves. Like, you can do it because that's all an audience can handle. 7. You can't go beyond 7. And so apparently at some point Capcom was like, okay, yeah, maybe you're right. But then they kept, no, actually add this person.
Yeah,
no,
add this character. Yeah. In terms of, because they had Street Fighter 2 Super, I think that was coming out. And so they wanted characters from that game in the movie. And so like Cammy is from the other game, and I think DJ also.
That's funny because I don't remember those characters, so that makes sense.
So Cammy is the Kylie Minogue character.
Uh-huh.
And then DJ is the Miguel Nunez character.
Yeah.
Now, Wes Studi as Sagat, I have to say, I enjoy him in this movie because he's kind of he knows what's up too.
Me too. They like crushed it with the villains.
Yeah,
Right, but they didn't. Even Vega here, he's very memorable. I mean, he looks
Yeah.
like an action figure. He's funny. He's expressive, right? But I just feel like our heroes are very flat and not memorable. And Van Damme is just weird. He doesn't feel like a human being. So it's
okay. So first of all, right here, guys, just give us a fight scene. Are you freaking kidding me?
yeah, they can't even let it happen. Yeah,
One fight scene. You have Ryu and Vega. You do a fight. Give us a kick-ass fight scene. Nope, can't do that. Instead, here's Van Damme with his bad one-liners. First of all, every one-liner gets stuck in his throat,
yes,
right? And like we said, he was just high as a kite for most of it. But that's the weird thing is, again, I'm far from an expert on Street Fighter, but I knew enough, especially when this movie came out. I was like, Guile is not the main character.
Mhm.
Oh, by the way, real quick, this actor, who oh, forgive me, I forget his name, but
Oh, I have it somewhere here. Yeah,
he was who Capcom wanted to play Ryu.
Kenya Sawada.
Sawada, yeah. So his English was not great, so he's actually dubbed in the movie, and so
Very noticeably dubbed.
very very noticeably dubbed. So they created Captain Sawada as a way for him to be in the movie.
Yeah, and apparently he wasn't happy about it, which you can understand. But
Happy about being dubbed?
demoted.
Oh,
from being
sure.
one of the main characters to this.
I mean, I don't know what you do in a situation like that, right? I see this. I do have sympathy for D'Souza in this because it's a very, very challenging position to be in.
I do too. I know a lot of times you would sort of. I mean, look at Vega there, just like he's cast well. I mean, the villains are great in this movie. But a lot of times you'd be like, oh, well, he proved he can't do it. But I think he was on to something here, D'Souza.
Yeah.
It just, when you read about everything that was working against him, and frankly, I mean, if he had cast Van Damme, I would blame him.
Yeah.
But knowing that was against his wishes.
He was told to cast Van Damme.
Yeah, which is ironic because I do think he's one of the worst things in this movie, but he's also one of the reasons it gets remembered.
Yeah, right?
So, wait, real quick, I wanted to point out, so when that AN Forces radio DJ said, good morning, Shadaloo.
Ah, yes.
Did you see that was played by
That's the real guy.
Yeah, who inspired the movie Good Morning Vietnam?
Yeah. Which
I was like, that is...
What a fascinating data point.
Exactly.
It's like, how odd.
Yes. Yeah.
See, I think that if your story is centered on Ryu and Ken and they're kind of these small time operators who find something bigger, well, there's your story.
Yes,
right?
they enter this crazy world they knew nothing about, but then they'll join forces with these other larger than life characters and save the day.
Yeah. There's your story. So the fact that it has to and what you realize is that there's sort of a microcosm of the film industry at work here, right? Because this is a movie that was locked into a release date before there was even a concept.
Right.
And it was locked into that release date. Why? Because of the Christmas. It was December 23rd, 1994. So Christmas season, and we've got action figures that we want to make and everything. So in other words, it was a marketing campaign that just needed the movie. And well, this is what you get.
Yep.
Right. But there was an effort to kind of make it very vaguely G.I. Joe-ish. And that makes sense when you realize that the toy line was made by Hasbro and it was an offshoot of their G.I. Joe line. So then suddenly these things start making sense. Like, oh, okay, so Guile is kind of like a Joe and Bison is vaguely Cobra-esque,
Yeah. Well, and even I read that the boat that Guile's driving later on was that design. They already had that design for a toy.
There you go.
Like, and I'm not saying that they wanted to eventually make that toy. Like, they had that mold. So they're like, this is what his boat looks like. Go.
The Hasbro people.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the Street Fighter G.I. Joe figures.
Wow. Yeah, I
Like,
don't.
yeah, they had it was like a subset of GI Joe, and it was Street Fighter characters like based on the video game, and then they did another version, another line that was based on the movie.
Hmm.
And the movie, by the way, I mean, it did whatever it did in the States. I think it had at the time the distinction of the biggest drop, not from weekend 1 to weekend 2, but from day 1 to day 2.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is, that's a feather in your cap, I guess. But here's what I find interesting: it cost $30 million, which was not cheap at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, that's the budget for a Blair Witch Project. You know what I mean? $30 million.
Yeah, I saw someone adjusted it for inflation. It was like $72 million today,
which is still
nothing
kind
to
of
sniff
cheap.
at. Yeah. Well, yeah, comparatively,
relatively, yeah. But regardless, it made more than 100 million worldwide.
Yeah.
And that says something to me, like, well, spend in a manner that is at least thrifty, and then you don't take a bath on this stuff,
Right. Yeah, totally.
I'm the repo man, and you're out of business. I'm not sure that metaphor works, I gotta be honest.
Yeah. No, I found myself very frustrated with Van Damme in this movie, where he certainly looks good.
Yeah.
But just, I don't know who to blame. I mean, I definitely blame him a lot, but that character is so not interesting or someone that you go, yeah, I'll follow you into battle. He just seems like some weird, I don't know how to explain it, but like, it's just a complete miscalculation.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Van Damme is you and I just recently watched Sudden Death.
Yes.
And he was okay in that movie.
Yeah.
Again, okay. Not Olivier, but he did what was required in that movie.
That's just it. And maybe they were playing into his strengths, because I remember thinking, I mean, look, is he a good actor? No, he is not. Yeah. But it worked in that movie.
Yes.
Right. I don't know. They calibrated it right, where he's like he's like a dad, and he keeps checking on his son. And, he did at least feel like a human being.
Yeah.
As much as he can, but just not at all in this. Like, you know what it is? It's what you said earlier about, I don't understand. I should know his relationship to his friend, Charlie.
Yeah.
I should get that. That will make him feel like a human being. That'll make it feel like there's something that he cares about. And I know he says it, but I don't see it. And I certainly don't see any chemistry between them.
Well, again, to me, this is a no-brainer. Your opening sequence should be an action sequence. We have the two of them, and they're like, hey, we ready, partner? Let's do this, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Charlie is captured. Within 10 minutes, you've got the necessary thing of Charlie being captured, but you've done the work of establishing them as a duo.
Right.
So it's again, budgetary limitations and everything else, but I'm kind of like, I'm fascinated by the fact that Steven D'Souza, who had a track record as a very successful writer of action movies, and even the script, it does not serve this movie well, right? It's not a situation where you're like, oh, it's badly directed, but it's on the page at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there's these structural problems where you're like, well, that doesn't, like, why do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like this right here is so baffling to me, because honest to God, so Van Damme pretends that he got shot.
Yeah.
And it feels like he just didn't want to show up. Right. And they're like, we got to figure out something to do, because he's like, hey, I'm not going to be available these 4 days or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because this plot mechanism is comical and not in a good way.
That's a good point. I mean, I was reading about that, where they would have days where it was hard to get him out of his trailer. So maybe that was some insurance.
Maybe.
Filming
this
that,
right here, by the way.
Yeah.
Bisonopolis shall be my wonder of the world. But I think the food court should be bigger.
Yes.
So
all this stuff is really fun.
Dude, almost every M. Bison scene cracks me up.
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And I do love, by the way, that Raul Julia, he did the movie because his kids were like, you got to do this movie. And he's like, I don't know. I think he was dealing with stomach cancer at the time. This is the last movie he made, and like, it's like the last thing he did was something for his kids. I don't know, man. That's really poignant to me.
Yeah. I have to say, he gets talked about it as this celebrated actor, but I really didn't know him from much else other than The Addams Family.
Oh, sure.
Which
yeah.
he's great in, of course.
Yeah.
But then I watched the film Presumed Innocent for the first time last year, and he's in it as an attorney, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He is like, if that were the first movie you were to see him in, you'd be like, well, that's a superstar. Like, he's incredible.
Yeah.
So it's sad, all the performances we didn't get to see from him.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's when you read about what was happening with this film, where he showed up and he was so emaciated, from having gone through chemo, that they shifted the shooting schedule so that the fight scenes were shot sooner, and then you could do the big dramatic scenes with the close-ups and stuff later, when normally it would be reversed. And so that allowed for his great performance, but obviously what ended up suffering was the fights, which there was no time to choreograph them or anything.
Right, which I had read that the stunt coordinator and some of the key stunt people signed on under the stipulation that they'd have a certain amount of time to work things out.
So it's this this cascade of calamities.
I know. Well, and speaking of the stunt coordinators, I mean, they were fighting against including the special moves that are famous from the video game, which is another thing that works against this movie. Where it's like, maybe now, video games and comic book movies are just more commonplace and beloved by the masses. So we've learned to embrace the weirdness of those things because that's why we showed up. But it feels like, I guess this was in an era where people didn't trust that. They're like, well, this is too silly. This looks ridiculous. We can't include that. But then you go to see the Street Fighter movie and you don't get to see the key moves that you love to do in the game. What are you even doing?
Nor any street fighting.
Literally, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's... Well, and that's another thing, again, that I don't blame D'Souza for, because they were falling so far behind that they literally had to split things up, where he's like, all right, I'll shoot the dramatic scenes, stunt people, you shoot the action scenes. And then he was seeing what they shot and being like, why didn't you include the moves? They're like, well, the moves look ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, this guy, man, he must have had Pepto-Bismol,
That's
in one hand,
really,
the whole movie.
That's the thought I have, because D'Souza, he wrote Commando, he wrote Running Man. Oh, Die Hard, obviously Die Hard 1 and 2. So he's got the track record, and I do wonder if he looks back and is like, why did I want to direct this movie?
I mean, I kind of get it. Like, when we see all the villain scenes, all the bison scenes, those are really fun, and I think the comedy is executed well. Like, they hit the nail on the head for a 12-year-old movie, a movie for 12-year-olds in 1994. That hit it on the head. And then you can imagine the fun in his imagination with what the fights could be.
Right.
But then you just see that all the things that were imposed upon him, and those are all the things that make this thing break down and fall apart.
It is fascinating that Capcom experienced in their own way what Nintendo experienced, a year earlier with the Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah.
Kind of the same drill, right? Where you had the video game company not understanding what makes movies work. And whereas with the video game, you have a screen with 24 characters, and here's everybody. It's like, well, a movie can't do that. And so then being like, oh no, you got to have, Cammy in here. Well, now we got to figure out what's her business. Oh, you got to have DJ in here now. Oh no, we need Balrog and Honda. It's like, at some point, it's just too much.
Yep. And then apparently, I mean, you sent me a great piece, an article about the making of this movie, where it was saying D'Souza was flying over to location to begin shooting this, and he had not cast Cammy at that
That's
point.
right.
I mean, that far along. And so he was on the airplane looking at a People magazine and saw Kylie Minogue on the cover and went, perfect. Called her up. She's in the movie.
That was kind of the funny thing for me, because I rewatched this a couple of years ago with my kids. It was their first time. I saw this, when it came out, and watching it with my kids, I was like, is that Kylie Minogue? Like,
Right.
And you realize this is before she blew up as a music star. This is her as just a struggling actor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this scene here where Chun-Li discovers Guile's body. Well, we're not there yet, but that's where I'm like, well, this is silly. Like, it makes no sense to me that Guile fakes his death and is lying on a slab waiting for what, Chun-Li to find him?
You know what? To be fair, it didn't even occur to me, but I wasn't taking this movie too seriously to begin with. But yeah, why is he just laying there?
He's lying there, right? It's not like he's knocked out and she, awakens him or something. You know what I mean? He's just lying there.
You know what would make more sense is if she went into the room and saw someone, the back of their shoulders hunched over doing something in the corner, like, who's that?
Yeah.
I've got to find the body, but I can't let that person, see me. And then he turns around looking for someone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Why would he be playing dead?
Right?
In a room by himself.
It makes no sense.
Good point, man.
Now Ming Na is like an immortal, right? Because she has not aged at all since this movie came out.
Oh, really? I haven't seen her.
Yeah, because she's Fennec Shand in the Mandalorian and stuff, and
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't put that together.
Yeah. She's clean living.
Yeah, yeah.
I do love that this guy with this impenetrable accent has the American flag like just patches all over his thing, and it's like it's the Allied Nations, it's the AN. It's like you could make him Belgian.
Right.
That would work.
It's funny that I missed it and I can't rewind it, but there was some line that he said there to himself that I remember thinking, does that make sense? Where he's like, it's not about vengeance, it's about mine. It's like, wait.
Yeah, it's not about your vengeance, it's about
Does
mine.
he say your? I feel like there was like a word missing that made it trip in my mind.
He says it's not about your vendetta, it's about mine.
Oh, okay.
Which, there's an opportunity there for him to be like, it's about a higher principle.
Right.
No.
Right. Yeah.
So what was your history with Street Fighter as a kid?
Oh, I mean, it was like the greatest video game ever.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it innovated fighting games, right? Where you could do the combo moves and it had these really memorable, distinctive characters.
The thing right there, it says Capcom. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, Capcom on the barrel.
Hey, sorry, go on.
But yeah, no, I mean, this paved the way for games like Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct and all that stuff. So
yeah.
What I find so fascinating about it is there is a Street Fighter 1 that I don't remember, but Street Fighter 2 became so iconic that instead of making, I mean, they did go on to make 3s and 4s, but before that they made Street Fighter 2 The World Warrior, Street Fighter 2 Special Edition, Street Fighter 2 Turbo. It's like Street Fighter 2, the number 2 included, was the golden seal, the good housekeeping seal of approval. Like, this is the good game. Street Fighter 2 is the good one.
Yep.
And it's just funny how they kept calling things Street Fighter 2 and then adding some sort of tag to it and making other games.
Yeah. Street Fighter 2 Super, Street Fighter 2 Ultra. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, what about you? I mean, do you remember playing this in arcades or on Super Nintendo? Or
I mean, this was the button smasher of button smashers, right? Like,
yes.
I remember going to Galaxy World, on was it Lake Street? No, not Lake Street, North Avenue.
Yep, I remember that.
And yeah, I'd just be feeding, tokens into that machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always play as Ken or Ryu. And I think about that now and I'm like, did I just gravitate towards them, and maybe that's why I thought they were the main characters.
Well, that's funny. I remember shaking it up a bit, but I do remember playing Chun-Li a lot.
Yeah,
She had these super long legs, so it was really easy to like sweep people off their feet and kick them in the face.
Yeah, I was watching this a couple days ago just to prep for this commentary, and my 13-year-old is like, "Oh, why are you watching this?" I was like, "Oh, Street Fighter." He's like, "Well, what do you know about Street Fighter?" This is my kid telling me.
Really?
I'm like, "I played Street Fighter like decades before you were born, you little shrimp."
Wait a minute. So this younger generation, Street Fighter means the same thing to them? Like they think it's theirs?
I mean, they play it, they've got it but I mean, via like Capcom versus Marvel and stuff like that.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Bunch of whippersnappers is my point.
But this was like such an amazing time for video games where you would have the fight combinations and the special moves like the Hadouken and all that stuff were amazing. And I remember E Honda where he could make his fist go crazy and stuff. But then you had those magazines because we didn't have the internet yet. Yep. So you would have Nintendo Power. Yep. And it would have you'd buy that and you'd find out about the warp levels in Mario Brothers, or you'd find
that's right.
Right? It would put the maps, or it would put, the Capcom code, right? Isn't that Capcom? The up, down, left, right, left, right, BA, BA, select, start. And that's where you discover all this stuff. That's where you learn these moves.
That's right. Yeah, I remember definitely by the time I started high school, people had chosen up sides. So you had your Mortal Kombat people and your Street Fighter people. And I was like, well, they're all fighting games. I mean,
Yeah.
So I was not dug in. But I liked them both. I remember what I liked about Mortal Kombat was the quote unquote realism.
Mm-hmm.
And what I liked about Street Fighter was the cartoonishness of it.
Totally.
So it was like scratching two different itches,
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, Mortal Kombat, I don't remember. There was like a documentary. I cannot remember the name, but it was kind of about the story of Sega, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying it was like, okay, well, we've got, like you said, sort of the cartoon, punchy, kicky sort of thing. And they're like, how can we make this, 90s to the extreme kind of a thing? And it's like, well, what if he rips his spine out? They took it crazy. I remember that game feeling like dangerous. Like it was something, the parents don't want me to play this. It's very different.
Totally.
But speaking, that had the combination moves, the fatalities, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was it was an innocent time when you could just, find new ways of murdering your opponent.
I know. It's kind of funny. Years later, when I was working at Bob's Burgers, I was talking with
by the way, I real quick, I just want to say, this conclave is over is like one of my, I say that all the time in random places.
It's hilarious.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just talking with the lead animator, and we were talking about video game codes, and everyone knows the up, down, down. And I said 007, and he's like 373, and then together we're like 5963, which is the code to fight Mike Tyson. And I'd never met anyone else who had that memorized. So, yeah, we're the few, the proud.
And then you hugged and said, "This is why doves cry."
Yeah, exactly. But I saw a stat where it said all versions of Street Fighter 2 have grossed about $10 billion.
Oh, it's a behemoth even now.
Yep.
Okay, so this right here. So Chun-Li and company have set up a little trap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do this?
Oh my gosh! But that's what this movie is, right? When it pulls it off, it feels like, of course, it's winky. But yes, this is absolutely ridiculous.
They're like, "Hey, we're about to kill you now."
Yeah, we're right outside. Literally, you can probably see us if you look outside the tent.
So then they get captured, and the Ryu and Ken, nothing works. And I'm like, you could have just hit. I do love, by the way, how Zangief is like, "Quick, turn the channel."
I know, yeah, he's funny.
So the guy who plays Zangief, Andrew Bernarski, he is in Batman Returns. He's Chip Shrek.
What?
Dad, save yourself.
Wait.
Same guy.
Okay, I need to see him. By the way, that's an awesome explosion.
It is.
I love when you see those like little rockets of sparks and things fly out, and it feels really, not just a big fireball.
That's 22 million of the 30 million. The other 8 was Van Damme's cocaine supply.
Unbelievable. I mean, yeah, it was a $33 million budget, and 8 of it went to Van Damme. Feels
hey,
like
man,
he should owe them $8 million.
He should pay it. It should have been like contingent on performance.
I know. I saw after this he was, he could command that, right? And then he was going to sign a 3-picture deal with some studio for $12 million per movie, but he demanded $20 million because that's what Jim Carrey was doing. Ugh. And they were like, he says the studio hung up on him.
Man. Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't he feel like he could get that though?
See, look at this, Chip Shrek right here. You can't see him.
Wait, yeah, he just went. Dude, that never in a million years. If you showed me, right? Yeah. If I was looking at him and you said, this character from another movie, him, I never would have connected that.
I was fairly certain you would never have made the connection.
No.
And so, in my opinion, between Chip Shrek and Zangief, dude deserves an Oscar.
No kidding. He looks like a type here, like sort of like the boyfriend in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Like a burly lumberjack looking guy, And then to think that he's also this square-jawed, pretty blonde, muscular dude in another movie, never in a million years. Amazing. I'm glad you told me that.
I'm telling you, doing a Christopher Walken impression in front of Christopher Walken. Dad, go save yourself.
Right.
It's so funny.
Bold.
And he's really funny in this movie. He cracks me up.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's fun. See, that's what I'm saying. Like the stuff that feels like a 12-year-old's movie, totally works. I think.
No, this is, I would say, comparable in some ways to Masters of the Universe, the movie Masters of the Universe.
Interesting.
In that Dolph Lundgren is vaguely Van Damme-ish, although I would offer that Van Damme has slightly more charisma than Van Damme.
Dolph Lundgren.
Did I say Van Damme? Sorry. It's the cocaine talking, right?
In
Dolph Lundgren.
Commentary. Yeah.
Dolph Lundgren has slightly more charisma than Van Damme, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
Not to say he is Laurence Olivier either.
No.
But Frank Langella, again, that man showed up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
That's a good point.
So this scene here cracks me up. First of all, this right here. Captain Sueda's like, you'd have to be out of your mind to do that,
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, luckily, Bison's driven me crazy.
So I'm gonna do it. Oh man, yeah.
Oh jeez.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't feel as bad picking on Van Damme just because of his hubris.
Yeah, I look,
but he's pretty rough in this movie.
He's so this here where they're whipping Honda and like you hear Hawaiian music.
I know, it's kind of a weird tone because then they show his back.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, oh well, shit.
Like that was my thought. Like if you play the Hawaiian music and like things are just breaking off on him comically, like he's Curly from the Three Stooges.
Yes,
that would kind of work,
Yep, I agree because then it becomes like kind of real and horrifying.
Exactly right
when they show the actual lashes on his back.
Yeah, again, some of these choices very odd.
Yeah.
Grandel Bush, by the way, as Balrog. Grandel Bush is one of those guys. Like I don't know that we've seen him much in anything recently, but for a while there, he was in everything. Right? Because he's in Lethal Weapon 1 and 2. He's in Die Hard. He's Agent Johnson.
I did not put that together.
I was in junior high, dickhead, or whatever he said.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, he was in a bunch of stuff.
Hmm.
And again, I feel like we haven't seen him in a while. Maybe I'm wrong.
But just watching this scene, I'm like, who are we supposed to be following here?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is too many characters.
Well, this is the thing, right? Because if you say, okay, they're trying to do like a G.I. Joe type thing,
Yeah.
then it makes sense. Like, okay, we're trying to give everybody business.
Yeah, sure.
Right. But I would offer this is the problem with doing a G.I. Joe type movie is that, well, it's a team. Like, that's why none of those movies have succeeded as well as they might.
Right.
Because, like, think about it. G.I. Joe as a concept does not revolve around a single hero. The idea is kids can find the guy who they want to imagine themselves being.
Yeah, sure.
And so you have certain team leaders, but the outfit is kind of everybody is their own center of gravity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why when you say, no, Channing Tatum is the main character, like, it doesn't work as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I think this is if you're trying to do it as like a G.I. Joe type thing, well, it's like, we got to give everybody business, but Van Damme is still our main character. And he's sort of a black hole of,
personality,
charisma.
Characteristics, humanity.
I mean, at the very least, they should have given him Giles' like crazy, like flat top haircut.
See, I would have liked that if they had sort of exaggerated the costumes and features and things to sort of. I mean, let's just go with it.
Yeah, I think that there is like a tonal dissonance between whatever's going. This cracks me up. What would prevent him from asking for 50 billion, 100 billion? And the way he like pushes that guy and does this thing with his hands. Yeah. I'm like, like in the moment, Van Damme's like really into it.
Yeah. Right.
And this guy, this bureaucrat, I don't know, J. Miles Snootington III. He seems like,
yeah.
Well, Colonel,
he's perfect.
We've decided to pay him off. Okay, so here we go. The greatest speech in video game history.
Yeah. I almost feel like I should just insert the clip here. Because I mean, if people haven't heard it, I mean,
if you haven't heard it, you have to go to YouTube and watch it.
It's worth it. It's worth it. Do it.
What's so fun? Honestly, this is truly movie magic. I truly like the music, which creates this like this momentous nature, and all these people who we don't know who they are.
I was just going to say, I have no context for this.
Right? Like, it's one thing if it's like, there's Balrog and there's, Honda's like, oh man, this sucks or whatever. We don't know any of them,
Yeah, we've all come so far. We've worked so hard. I've got these injuries on my back, but they're telling us to leave.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, I guess, what choice do we have? And then him stepping up and giving the speech would actually mean something.
But I love the refrain, but we can all go home.
So good. I'm serious. If anyone hasn't heard this speech, YouTube it.
But we can all go home. But ideas like peace and justice and freedom, they get packed away. But we can all go home.
Wait, by the way, what is that random shot of that woman with her shoe?
Yeah, with her shoe.
It's so weird. That feels like when you have like an Avid, like a digital timeline, and you have like a clip you forgot to delete that's on another line on top of your main line or something. You know what I mean? It's like some clip
they just added in.
Yeah. We forgot to delete that. Why is that there?
So, okay. So 2 things here. Number 1, this guy's like, Colonel, stop them. He's like, sorry, you fired me. We're going. I'm like, I don't think it works that way.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Pretty sure there's fail safes against one crazy Belgian. But I do love how his stealth boat has his name on it.
Yeah.
And you were talking about like the action toy has already been made, right? It doesn't seem like that would be the the deco that would be on the toy, you know?
Yeah. That's really funny though. It does look like a toy, his boat.
Oh, absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, they ended up, so they shot this in Thailand, and the idea was like an airborne attack.
Yes.
And the government was like, well, we can't help you with that. So it's like, okay, we're going to go upriver in that case.
Yeah. And so then they had to throw in a line where I guess Guile says, an attack from the air is impossible. Just explain.
But Colonel, you must be out of your mind. Well, Bison's driven me crazy.
See, I love this. I mean, this is the stuff that's really funny to me, like
This
Bison
scene
changing.
It's so freaking funny, dude.
Right? And then he comes back out with like a smoking jacket and like an ascot.
No, and he changes his hat. That's what cracks me up.
Yes, he changes his hat.
He goes from like the black one to the red one. It's so funny.
And it looks exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
See, he knows what he's doing, the way he just put that hat on. This
But
stuff's great.
Here's the thing. This whole stem winder she has about my dad and this and that, and it's all just for the punchline, which is, for me, it was Tuesday. That is a legitimately great line.
I agree.
Right?
Yep. I agree. It's weird because it fits the tone of this, but it also is pretty dark.
Right?
That, how he can be so cavalier about, all the death. See, but yeah, him in that suit, him with the hat, the smoking jacket, and then the drinks. I just think it's so funny. His logo is on those drinks. Like I want this movie.
Yeah,
I want the whole thing to lean into this.
No, it really does come down to Van Damme, right? Like, I mean, he wasn't limber enough as an actor to lean into the tone.
Yeah.
And it's tough because either you want an actor who kind of, here's what I would say, right? Like, you could do something like The Phantom, where Billy Zane is very earnest and Treat Williams is in on the joke. And that's what makes a movie like that work.
Mm-hmm.
But Billy Zane also, like, he knows what to lean into.
Right.
And I don't think Van Damme plays one character and it's coke-addled Van Damme.
Yeah.
Right? Again, like to me, Ryu and Ken, these should be your main characters.
I agree. And I feel bad saying it, but I wish they were more charismatic.
See, I think Byron Mann, I would watch a movie about that guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's on his way.
Yeah.
But maybe he doesn't have enough to work off of.
You didn't have enough to work with,
Yeah.
Because like we watched Mortal Kombat, right? And the main character, I mean, there's a great ensemble, but it's Liu Kang is the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And Robin Shao is good in that movie.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like there was a little bit of ingrained racism, like, oh, maybe American audiences won't want to watch a movie about an Asian main character. I don't know if that's the case. But I wonder, because Capcom, who owned the game, should have known enough to be like, well, Guile is not the main character.
Yeah.
You know?
It's funny. By the way, we should talk about that John Wayne Gacy painting in the background.
Yes, that's right.
That's a kind of a twisted joke, honestly. But like Bison has all these paintings in his quarters here, and one of them is like serial killer John Wayne Gacy used to make these clown paintings, and this is a painting of Bison in that style.
Yeah.
Which is a very weird early 90s joke, I guess.
Very, very specific to that era. Yeah.
But yeah, no. I was going to say, a lot of unsavory people these days will complain about diverse casts.
Sure.
And watching this movie in like 30 years before those ridiculous conversations, I was like, oh, well, this movie's pretty diverse.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess to your point, maybe they didn't trust enough to put like an Asian character in the lead.
Yeah, I think that, like Van Damme was supposedly offered this and the role of Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat. And he turned that down because he felt like this one gave him more of a focus, right? And I'm like, well, I can't imagine him in Mortal Kombat. So that he saved that movie.
Yeah.
But it is something where you look at the decision making by the video game company, which really did it in. I mean, that's the kryptonite with this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
because you cast somebody other than Van Damme and you let it be more of an ensemble. And I think you end up with a stronger movie.
Yeah, I agree. Just watching the scene, Chun-Li, she does her like flying kick move, and him going behind this, I don't know, glass wall, poison coming through. Like everything about this scene, the cocktails, the smoking robe, this is the movie I want.
Yeah, yep.
I wish the whole movie had been like this. But I hadn't seen Mortal Kombat till we did the commentary for it.
That's right. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. All these years later, I feel like it knew what it was, the tone it set out to strike. It did. It succeeded, and that movie worked for me.
Yeah,
for what it was,
Well, and I think, to me, if we're gonna, and I think that's a good comparison to make is why does this movie not work in terms of what it was trying to do versus Mortal Kombat? And I think it's, well, what is the subject matter? Like Street Fighter, the game, isn't this big G.I. Joe type thing,
right?
Mortal Kombat is ultimately, it's a tournament movie set against the backdrop of Outworld and all the stuff in the game,
right?
But I think, well, here I have two thoughts actually, because the Legend of Chun-Li movie tries to do like a Christopher Nolan Street Fighter movie.
I may have to watch this.
Yeah. It's worth watching.
Okay.
But it's like, boy, what are you even doing here? So it's like this casts too wide a net, that casts too narrow a net. And I'm like, there's got to be a Socratic ideal, somewhere in the middle here,
Oh, by the way, yes. Okay, so here's the video of him with the friend. Doesn't it look like he told an offensive joke and everyone is mad at him? And so everyone's just like, Guile, and he's like, what? And he's like looking at the camera like, what did I say?
Well, you can't use that word?
Yeah, it's a very weird. It's like, why not show them like racing together, trying who's the fastest, or like, Rocky kind of stuff.
It's what's funny to me is that Guile needs to put that tape on. Like, I need to remind myself what I'm fighting for,
Yeah, I think we needed it.
Yeah. Because that's the only scene in the whole movie with the two of them together.
Yeah, here it is, where he puts on the happy Clockwork Orange material.
Yeah, it's like, oh, couples getting married, and
yeah, just very funny things.
See, the thing with Dalsim has this, I was going to say face turn, but I don't think he's like a bad guy either, really, before. Right. But this is what I'm saying, right? Like, what prompts him to do this?
I mean, he's a captured scientist, right?
Right. So why not do something throughout where it's kind of like a Lando Calrissian, like, this isn't what I agreed to, you know what I mean?
Sure.
This deal's getting worse all the time, if you will,
Yeah. So funny.
The other thing, by the way, and we'll get there, but like Blanca looks kind of hilarious.
Yeah, he looks he looks like the Universal Studios version. Like when you go to the theme park.
Sure.
Like the theme park is what I'm trying to say. The Universal theme park version of Blanca here.
See, to me, he looks like when Conan turns into the Hulk.
Yes, he does. Right. Yeah.
See, I do kind of like the mechanics that went into like, okay, we have to get all of these characters to become their video game versions by the end of the movie. And so you see sort of the creative hurdles that have to be overcome to get there.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now Chun-Li, like why Chun-Li starts as a reporter, why does she look like this? And you kind of find a way, and it kind of works in story.
Yeah.
Because it's essentially like the origin story of the Street Fighter characters as we know them in the game, I guess. Which, so D'Souza, he came at this as a fan of the game. Again, he played it with his son. His son has a cameo, which I guess we missed. It was earlier in the film. It was just something that they would go to the arcade and they would play. And so I loved that, you know?
Mhm.
And so, we've been talking about this a lot. Like, for the 12-year-olds who watch this, 12 and under, I have no doubt that this was like the absolute sweet spot for them,
Yeah. Yeah.
A little older and you're out of the range.
Yeah. Yeah. I had that thought because I was thinking, I mean, I'm just not connecting with this. I like I said, I connected with Mortal Kombat even 30 years later or whatever. And I wasn't with this, but I had the feeling that if I had watched this when I was 12, I'd be endeared to it. And even if I could see it as ridiculous now, I'd be like, oh yeah, but here's that part that I like coming up. And I remember liking this as a kid.
Yeah.
Um,
I always point to Masters of the Universe,
yeah.
because I was 7 years old when I watched that movie. And to this day, I just have fond memories, and I know full well it's not, good.
Yeah.
But it is fun for me,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've got plenty of those. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure like Short Circuit 2 and those sorts of movies.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
If I were to show it to someone now, they'd be like, what? But I love them deeply because they were part of my childhood.
So here's something interesting about Grand L. Bush. He retired from acting in 2002, and he went to med school. And that's just kind of interesting to me because the guy was not hard up for work. He just was like, no, going to med school.
I love that. Following his passions. Although, by the way, I didn't mean to slander Short Circuit 2, by the way, because I think Johnny Five is a deeper and richer character than any of the characters in this film.
This is the collection agency, Bison. You're overdue. A lot of these, like, your credit is declined metaphors, like,
You're right.
this is the credit card company. We're putting in overdraft protection or whatever. Like, that's the next.
Right.
That little bit there where Bison covers his eye.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, didn't you see that?
Mm-hmm.
To make fun of Sagat. A, that's a sick burn.
Yeah.
But B, that was just Raul Julia, like, vamping.
Oh, really?
I respect that.
Isn't that amazing? He wasn't thinking about going back to his trailer. Like he's in it.
I know.
I like this thing. It's like floating. I don't even know what you'd call it. Desk or whatever that he's got here. One, it has those arcade controls on it.
Yeah. It, just like the game. Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I was reading like that the conditions were
I want a
rough.
cape. I want a cape that I can dramatically flip over my shoulders.
See, that's when I was talking about his costume earlier. I was remembering that. Like it looks cool when the cape is draped over his shoulders. It looks cool when he flings it back. Like it's a great costume.
I agree. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, not at all. Not at all. Sometimes it's interesting watching movies that the technology is of its time, right? And so, like watching this feels kind of scrappy.
Mm-hmm.
Him releasing these bombs and the boat narrowly avoiding them. It feels kind of, well, that's the footage they were able to get. Let's cut it together and try to make it seem exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And you just sort of take for granted now that you can pretty much do anything.
Mm-hmm.
With CGI.
That's so true.
We talked about that with Gladiator. Right, with the tiger, you watch the tiger in the arena with Maximus is still thrilling, but you can also sense this is what we are able to actually capture with a tiger.
Yeah,
and this is as far as we can go. Let's cut it together and make it look like it's attacking people, and it works.
Yeah.
But then you watch Gladiator 2, and it's like you have a guy riding a rhinoceros, and you have you can do anything you want.
You have sharks in the.
Yeah.
This is so funny. It's like the good montage. It's like it's a black couple dancing, and Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King. I know. It's so funny. But yeah, so his character Dollism, right? He stretches, And
Yeah,
I don't know how they would have pulled that off.
So there's a scene that ended up getting cut out where you see him doused in chemicals. You kind of see it there, like the DNA is like kind of, yeah. See how it's like on his hand? He kind of reacts to it.
Okay.
So when you see him at the end of the movie, he's bald. Because that's how he looks in the game. So the idea is that he was exposed to those chemicals and they like had that effect on him.
Mm. That reminds me, remember when they were trying to make Stretch Armstrong into a movie for like 20 years?
Yeah.
Do you think now they've reached that point where they're like, no one knows what that is?
I mean, that was a bad idea when they first announced it.
Yeah. I remember Taylor Lautner was one.
Taylor Lautner, yeah.
Yeah.
What happened to that guy?
I don't know.
Let me look it up. Oh, he retired and went to med school. No.
No.
I'm just joking.
Good for him.
No, I'm just joking. See, if you went to Grandel Bush in, say, 2004 and you were like, hey, I want you to be in this movie, he would have been like, I'm in med school, dickhead.
That's funny. Yeah.
No Van Damme splits in this movie. There's something.
Yeah.
At the very least, you'd think we'd get some of those.
Do you think that's something that he, by the way, we see this a lot now where you have these like female action characters and they sort of, crawl like spiders across these bigger people and use their legs around their necks and flip them over.
Yeah, that's like a very Black Widow thing.
Yeah, it's been like perfected and it looks awesome. But seeing it here with Kylie Minogue, I was like, oh, hey. Like she's kind of doing that here, and it looks sort of like the early version. It looks like a little rough, but it works.
It's the prototype.
Yeah.
It's 1.0. So that right there, that's Ed Pressman right there.
Wait, who?
Ed Pressman, the producer of the movie.
Oh, wait, the cook?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, good for him.
Yeah, Ed Pressman, by the way, he was like kind of a big deal back then. He produced the Conan movies and The Crow.
Wow.
He had like this whole thing, this corner of the cinema marketplace tied up, kind of vaguely geeky niche content. Yeah, he just passed away a couple of years ago.
Wow.
But yeah, like the Crow franchise and stuff, that was all him.
Wow, good stuff. No, I was gonna say about wait, I feel like there's something funny here. Does he say some line, right? Is it with this fighter? I feel like he has like a one-liner.
It's just a credit card. It's just a spider whose credit card is overcharged.
Exactly.
Guile is weirdly obsessed with.
That's money. It. 4 years of ROTC. Like I don't know. It didn't work. It didn't work. It's like suddenly they felt like they needed to give him like jokes or something, or give him some sort of personality.
What you realize watching Van Damme in a movie like this is that Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't get nearly enough credit for how easily he could pull off the one-liners.
100%. It's
right?
Easy to, and Stallone, you can sort of do a very easy impersonation of them and joke about their mannerisms or like their tropes or whatever it is, but they make it look easy.
Yeah.
They make it look easy.
Like the same year was True Lies.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of Schwarzenegger's greatest comedic performances.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he has a breeziness. It's just, he is a good actor for the types of roles that he plays, right? He doesn't get credit for that.
Yep.
Van Damme, on the other hand, was a physique.
Yeah.
But he didn't have a personality, and there was a moment there where you had movies with Van Damme or Steven Seagal for that matter, and people would show up.
Mm-hmm.
But the novelty wore out pretty fast.
Yeah.
Because both of these guys, Van Damme and Seagal, they kind of flamed out roughly the same time.
Yeah, that I don't know what you'd even call it. It's not a genre, but like they weren't quite the Stallones and the
it was like a level below Stallone, Schwarzenegger, and Willis.
They were like the B team action team, and everyone was cool with it for a minute. But like you say, it kind of fizzled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because like you look at somebody like Steven Seagal, right? And it's like out for death, out for justice, I see. The point is the titles all blur together.
Yeah.
Right. Hard to kill.
Right.
Tough to die, I'm assuming. It's like whatever. So this part cracks me up because he's basically like, wait, you're Charlie? It's like, oh, it's Mr. Burns. Kill him. He's
right.
bear in mind, he hasn't he knows that there's something in there. Like he's not just a monster because he's literally calling him friend.
Right.
And he's like, he's about to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. The other guy is like, no, don't kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wouldn't it make more sense for the other guy to be like, it's too late to save him. He should die. And he's like, I'm not going to kill my friend. Isn't that a better character moment for Guile?
100%. They come. There it is. There's the monster that we can stop it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Guile like, no, he's a man.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. This is wild.
Even if you have Blanca take the gun and is like pointing it at his own head,
and he takes it out of his hand.
Yeah.
Or if you have Blanca attacking him, like choking him, and him being like, no, hey, it's me, and like getting through to him, finding the human inside of him or something,
like Blanca repeats the racist joke.
Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, you said the thing, and it ruined our 4th of July. Yeah. He's like, that's right. And he's like, what I said was, he's like, no, you don't need to say it again. You don't need to say it again.
And then the repo man said his credit card was overdue. Why do you keep doing that?
Time to cut up Bison's credit cards. Yeah.
Jeez. As he's choking him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a choice to do Blanca the way they did. Because it's like a merger of two different characters, because there's like a Charlie something and Blanca, and they just or it's Carlos. There's like Carlos something and there's Blanca, and they just made it Carlos Blanca.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm fine with that. But I'm like, on an execution level, even though this movie is kind of like heightened reality, the existence of a green, orange-haired guy does kind of take you out of it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I'm looking at all these characters. There are a lot of characters in this movie.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, man, it's too bad. I mean, it's one of those things where there's some things to enjoy here. So you almost wish that this was like a second draft of the script you were reading. And you're like, oh, you are onto something here.
This is my thought, is like, once the video game company was like, this is your release date no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were screwed before one word had been typed for the script.
Yeah.
Because you can't be a slave to a release date without even having a movie,
Right. It's funny. When he said shoot the hostages, it reminded me of Speed, obviously.
Sure.
And that was the same year, 1994.
Yeah. And Speed and Street Fighter often mentioned in the same sentence. Usually that sentence being Street Fighter, that's no Speed.
This was out at the same time in theaters as Dumb and Dumber, to put that in history there.
Yeah, that's right. The Santa Claus, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, this opened in third place during that Christmas weekend. So they didn't even really benefit from that release date. That's sort of the ironic thing.
Yeah.
And the funny thing to me, and look, nobody's going to accuse Mortal Kombat of being, it's not a modern classic, but it is good at what it does. And I think, there was that initial sense of like, oh, why are they making it PG-13 when the game is rated R? And that ended up being a pretty smart choice with regards to that movie. So my point is, like, you can make this stuff palatable to a wider audience without losing any sophistication. And I think this movie, like we're talking about, the best stuff is sort of the camp, like this right here, when Honda and Zangief start fighting, and then before long we get like the Godzilla music playing, or the Godzilla sound effects. I mean,
right, because they're stomping on the model of Bison City.
It's pretty funny.
It's funny.
So the campy stuff works, but to me, all I see is the unconscionable stress that Steven D'Souza must have been under as a first-time director, trying to wrangle all of these things, and not having the ability as an established director to be like, well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I can see the appeal of wanting to do this, but you almost wonder, I mean, he had a lot of clout. Maybe he should have held out for something.
That's my thought, right? Like, because he never directed again at this level, right? I think he directed something recently, but it wasn't, it was kind of a smaller thing. I don't know what he's written since then. I think Lara Croft 2, I think
he got a story credit for that.
Okay. Not much. So my point is, he was burning white hot for a decade.
And he did Judge Dredd after this.
Judge Dredd was after this. That's right. Yeah. Well, okay. So not ideal. He also wrote Hudson Hawk, I think.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Let's see. Oh, he did the Flintstones?
He did do the Flintstones. I remember that.
I'm sure we talked about it and I've already forgotten. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I see. Yeah. Hudson Hawk, 48 Hours. Jumpin' Jack Flash.
I mean, he could have been dining out as a screenwriter forever. Right? And it does feel like Street Fighter killed almost all momentum for his career.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
Yeah. That's oh yeah, go ahead.
No, just connected to this, around the same time this movie came out, or maybe just before, he had created this animated series, or developed an animated series. It was based on a comic book called Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and it was a great show.
Huh.
And I think that was the first time I remember like internalizing his name was because of that show.
Oh, and
wow,
that's funny.
Yeah, and it I'm sure some people listening to this remember that, but it's like this future where civilization has de-evolved and somehow the dinosaurs have come back to life. And that's the show. And so you got people with like Mad Max technology, people riding around in old cars, i.e. Cadillacs, and there's dinosaurs. And I'm like, what a great idea for a movie.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right? So this scene right here where Ryu.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did it. They have their breakup. That's supposed to mean something, right? But kind of doesn't.
No, it feels so shoehorned. It almost feels like, there's a sort of like templates for writing stories, the writer or the hero's journey and whatever. I'm not saying it feels like a specific one of those beats, but it feels like someone was checking a list of story beats that need to happen in a good story. And they're like, oh, wait, we didn't have the friends like go their own way and then have to come back together again. I guess we could squeeze it in here. It feels so inauthentic and forced and quick and then resolved. It's like, why even do that at all? It doesn't even feel in character for that guy.
So this right here, when he pulls out that's supposed to be like an Indiana Jones type thing, I guess.
I think so, right? Because there's all the guys behind him.
But like nothing happens.
You know what it should have been? He thinks he's fine with that little knife. He should have been like, oh crap, all I have is this little knife. And then they're afraid and then he gets cocky.
Yeah.
But he's completely fine with the little knife. And that kind of steps on the joke.
Right. So there's where I wonder if that was like a Van Damme thing, like Dwayne Johnson, like I can never be the underdog type thing,
Maybe.
Right? Because I think those are always your best action hero moments, where the oh shit action hero moment. where he's like, "Uh-oh, now what do I do?"
Mm-hmm.
And those are always endearing for the audience,
Totally.
right?
You know, another thing. Look at that man, those bulging eyes. He's so great. Sorry, I had like 5 thoughts at once. I was gonna say, going back to the directing style of this, I was noting. I mean, you know, the movie's got its issues, but it still is pretty dynamic looking.
Yeah.
You know, like the camera work and the lighting and the sets. And I was like, isn't it? I miss that era when even bad movies looked good.
That's so true.
And I feel like things today too often look just so damn flat. You know, just lacking some sort of panache.
Well, because they're not shot on actual stages anymore.
Well, there's certainly that, but even just, I don't know if this is just a generation of filmmakers. Again, even if they're not making great movies, they grew up watching interesting films or something, and so they at least were influenced by certain. I said influenced, almost like Van Damme. Influenced. They were influenced by certain dynamic filmmakers and visual style, and so these movies just can't help but have that. And I feel like now there really is almost more of a point and shoot style for even for too many movies. And so I did note watching this, like, wow, I mean, it's a pretty dynamic looking movie. It's got some good looking stuff in it.
And considering the fact that, you know, they were filming in a studio that was about as chintzy as it gets.
Yeah, holes in the ceiling. So like light was coming through that they had to, yeah. No, but to your point though, I think you're right. I too often people will opt for fake backgrounds. So then you're not going to get light that feels authentic because they're mimicking sunlight. And there's nothing like actual sunlight reflecting off of a person's face.
Well, and the DP of this movie is William Fraker, who shot like Tombstone, and, you know, like he was a legit guy.
Well, there you go.
You know?
Yeah. I wonder if that was a cheeky cut. Did you notice that? Where like Guile was about to kick the guy, and then it cuts right to Chun-Li finishing the kick on someone else.
Yeah.
That's actually quite clever. I see you, editor.
I mean, look, the editors did a Herculean task, you know, in terms of trying to get this thing salvageable.
And that spin kick thing?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Isn't that like one of Guile's moves?
Yeah, I think so. I know it's been a while, but yeah, and that's why we're here. I want to see more of that.
So this here, where it looks like Bison is dead.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like, well, maybe check his pulse, bro. Like, before you declare, you know?
I swear, ever since Zombieland, I always think double tap. Double tap.
See this here, where she's like, she's like, where are you? He's like, I'm half dead. And what about Bison? All dead. I'm like, doesn't that feel like you're only saying half dead just so that she'll ask about so that you can, right?
Yeah, right.
It's sort of like, to me, it's like Louis C.K. has this bit about Good Will Hunting where he gets super annoyed by the "Do you like apples?" thing.
Because it requires the other person to answer a specific way that a person might not actually answer.
Right.
Yeah.
That always cracks me up.
That is pretty funny.
Right? It's like those guys, like, why would you know this guy, you don't get along with this guy, why would you answer in exactly the way he wants you to answer?
Right. Instead of saying like, why? You know, like buzz off. You know?
If he said, "Do you like apples?" I do.
Right.
Or I don't, excuse me. Well then, okay then.
Yeah, exactly.
Miguel A. Nunez, aka Juana Man.
Oh yeah, I thought I recognized him. I'm not sure it's from that, but I recognize him from this era.
He's been in so many things, yeah.
Yeah. Talk about a 90s line. Should have stayed with Microsoft.
That's like in the movie Frequency, it's a whole running bit about how the guy didn't invest in Yahoo.
Oh, that's funny.
But you watch that now, you're like, that has not aged well at all.
Yeah. 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 Although credit to Forrest Gump, they talk about investing in Apple, and that holds up.
That does hold up.
Yeah, this feels weird to me.
Yep.
Like Ken's turn.
It's very. He's like, get out of there. He's like talking to the screen.
Yeah.
He can't hear you, dude.
Yeah. Was he like, Ryu, amigo?
Yeah, I think that well, I mean, and I hate to say it, but yeah, I think the guy who plays Ken is just not particularly charismatic.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help. But this here, so the fight between Ryu and Vega, you should have set that up in the beginning where like they are actually fighting and it's unresolved because it's interrupted.
You're right, because they interrupt the fight before it even begins. Why not have it begin and then get interrupted, and then it makes more sense. Where were we?
Yeah,
Here.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're totally right.
See, he should have been like, he flies now? And then be like, he flies now.
But that's what I'm saying. Like this, everybody doing these weird spin kicks and him having hover boots. This is the movie I wanted to. Oh, you know, actually, I forgot. This was what I was thinking the first time I watched it, like 2 nights ago. The third act is the movie I wanted all along.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah. And this is nice, you know, where the Ryu's friend comes back to help him, but it just none of it feels organic or earned.
Yeah, because so much of the focus is on the Guile part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just, you know, there isn't a lot there.
Yeah, so no one gets enough drama. It should be, going back to what you said, you set it up perfectly, where we should get more emotion out of what's happened to my friend and him being like, well, no, everyone sees a monster, but I see my friend. Or that should be the drama of this movie.
Yeah.
Right? Or it should be about Ken and Ryu and their drama. But
exactly.
There are no leads, and so nobody gets drama.
Yeah, and so everybody has these little mini arcs that are meant, you know, again, Chun-Li's whole I want revenge thing, which doesn't amount to much.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and it's kind of like, well, make this a thing where they all come together with that specific goal of revenge on Bison.
Mm-hmm.
And have it pay off for all of them.
Yeah.
As opposed to, it's like these guys have their story, these guys have their story, and they're only tangentially connected to each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or just do the tournament movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Which you didn't want to do, but you know.
I want to see Honda smash up a car.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I do like, by the way, that in the movie they did, in certain scenes they incorporate like the backdrops from different levels.
Yeah, I guess Ken, that statue he picks up is from one of the backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Although it would have been fun to see them actually walk through one of them.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like a inside scrolling manner.
Yeah, you know what would have been fun is Ken having, you know, I've got to go help my friend. So he's like, I got to go find him. And then we do like one of those comical sorts of things where it's a static shot of all the different backgrounds of the levels. And him like, Ryu, like going from screen left to right. Where are you? And then going through the next one, you know, Ryu, until he eventually finds him.
That's funny. I have to, you know, I mean, Raul Julia is dying while making this movie.
Yeah, he had less than a year to live.
I mean,
after this,
amazing. You know, like he died during post.
Wow.
Because of course, you know, the movie's dedicated to him, and it's, again, it's just like I can't even imagine, you know, but he understood the assignment, and he gave it us all, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That said, Bison goes out like a punk. This doesn't make any sense to me. How is this any more lethal than what happened to him previously?
Right. Just being electrocuted again.
Bison, you're off the air in this like really obvious ADR.
Right. That's so funny. It's like we got this boxer. He hasn't done anything. Well, how about he boxes the button?
Maybe that's why Grandel Bush left acting. Now we get it.
Yeah.
He's like, if this is it, forget it.
It is nice, by the way. So, I mean, knowing that Raul Julia, he had his surgery already. He was not doing well. But while he was over here filming this, his family was with him. And they said that they gave him some time to sort of heal up at the beginning of the shoot. And he was out vacationing with his family. Like his family was there enjoying being with him while this was going on, which was nice to read.
That is, yeah.
It kind of makes sense in a way too, because it would be if he had just like sort of left to go do this, it'd make less sense. But like, hey, like make this thing that I know my kid is going to love. My family gets to be with me in this, sort of vacation area type spot where we're filming. It's kind of nice.
Yep. But this bit cracks me up. Where he's like, "You got paid?"
Yes, right.
He's a bad guy.
Yeah, he paid me a freaking fortune.
Dad, go save yourself.
Wait, what else has he been in?
He's in I'm fairly certain he's in Any Given Sunday.
Okay. Yeah, that's one I haven't seen since the theater. I haven't.
Yeah, he played the Al Pacino role. No, I'm pretty sure he's one of the football players.
Okay, he's in Hudson Hawk. Okay. Interesting. Burn Notice. I mean, he's still.
I think we may have talked past there's the part where Van Damme tells them, "Go on, I'll meet you later," and he said, "I'll meet you later."
Oh yes, please tell that story.
Yeah, and so the line is like, "I'll meet you later" or "I'll see you later," and they do, and it's elaborate. There's gunshots and everything else, and then Van Damme is like, "I'll meet you later." Cut. He called cut, and they're like, "Why'd you call cut?" He's like, "I said ladder instead of later." And so they had to reset the whole thing, all the bullets, this is an elaborate thing.
Yeah.
And then when they looked at the VTR for the shot that he'd called cut on, he actually said later.
Yeah.
But then in the retake, he said ladder.
Right. Of course.
So it's sort of a comedy of errors. But so there's Dalsum, who is suddenly bald now.
Right.
And that they were supposed to lead into that, but I think this was in there. I don't give an F anymore stage.
We're like, we gotta go. We're like 15 days over schedule.
Just get it out the door.
Yeah. Print.
I mean, nobody sets out to make a bad movie or a poorly regarded movie. And so you can imagine Steven D'Souza's shoulders continuing to slump as the weight of just each burden that's put in front of him is added up, I
mean, that's truly how I look at it, because I see the fun movie in this movie.
Yeah.
You just think of all the things that were imposed on him, and you can also feel the strain. Like you said, you can feel his shoulders slumping as you watch this movie. So it's too bad if people just lighten up. I'd make it a summer 95 movie. It's fine.
Exactly.
You know?
Right? Have it go head to head with Mortal Kombat.
Sure.
There you go.
Yeah. And then get it right.
Christmas 95. It would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly. Zangief. Now he's one of the good guys.
This is a funny gag, though, where he gets away with the money and it's just like bison bucks.
Yeah, that's good.
Which is like itchy and scratchy dollars, basically.
Right. No, I do like that.
I like that Sagat. If you notice, without a shirt on, he's got the scar, just like in the game.
Oh, man, I don't even want to see.
He's got a scar across his chest in the game.
Huh.
It's so funny.
There's something kind of fun and comical about seeing like this big 235 widescreen shot of like these cartoon looking adults just blocked like that, just standing there huffing and puffing.
So here's Van Damme stealing the T-800's line from
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I need a vacation. I'm
Yeah.
like, you get his words out of your filthy mouth.
Yeah, that's so
How
cheap.
effing dare you?
Yeah.
I love that Van Damme is just open, like, yeah, I was just in Thailand, just screwing Kylie Minogue every chance I could get.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I
Screw 'em
saw
like
some quote
rabbits.
to the effect where he's like, it'd be like crazy not to.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
I mean, have you seen her? You know?
No, we've seen her. We've seen her. Okay. But she does become this like worldwide international superstar after this.
It is amazing. Yeah.
What is that? Twisting the thumb.
Because he's so stupid, he doesn't know what a thumbs up is.
Is that literally what's happening there?
Yeah. He did like a thumbs to the side.
I didn't get the first time. I didn't get the second time. Thank you, Zaki.
I think you're fine not getting it.
Oh, man. This is hilarious, too. Where he's like, yeah, I'll do your interview so long as you wear that dress.
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of HR complaints that clearly didn't go through back in the day.
I don't know, man. I feel like this group would be better together without Guile.
I think that's sort of the takeaway. By the way, this shot is hilarious. The final shot of the movie.
You know what? It's ridiculous, but it's like, I kind of love it.
Well, it exactly mirrors like the final shot of the game.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that. Do it. Yes, do it. That's why I think that's one of the biggest things we've gained in recent years with comic book movies and everything. It's like leaning into the material. That's why everyone showed up. Give them everything as weird as it is. That's what they want. And so that's ridiculous at the end. But it's like, but that's what I want. That's the game. It's ridiculous.
What did people show up for?
Yeah, exactly.
Just give the people what they want. See, Lonely Cook, Ed Pressman. You see that?
Oh, funny.
It's very random. Wow. So there's Street Fighter, Brian.
Street Fighter. I don't know that I will be going back to this one. Unlike, I will say though, there's other 90s movies I had missed, like The Phantom and like with Shadow, things like that you've shown me that I was like, hey, I'm glad you brought this to my attention. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed the craft, and I thought the stories were pretty good. Mortal Kombat was one of those, but this one I just did not connect with.
Well, I want to be very clear in saying I was not recommending this to you as a hidden treasure.
No, of course not. Of course not.
I don't want to get any of that stank on me.
And I feel kind of bad because, again, this being my second time ever watching this, I'm sort of nitpicking it to death, where I'm sure a lot of fans who are listening to this right now are like, no, we know. But can we just like talk about how the nostalgia of it all? So I'm sorry if I dug in a little bit too much.
Well, I don't think anybody who is a fan of this movie is unprepared for the shellacking. It's going to receive. I think that's unavoidable. That's part of the recipe.
Right.
I think the one thing pretty much everybody agrees on is that Raul Julia is just legitimately great in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He is just an absolute delight to watch. I've seen this movie a handful of times, not very many, but every single time I watch it, his lines crack me up. And I think the absolute just serious deadpan that he plays is exactly what was required. And I think it is also very telling that people signed on to be in the movie because he was going to be in it.
Yeah.
So he had sort of a Marlon Brando in Superman effect,
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty cool because even Damian Chapa, who played Ken, said something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, if Raul Julia's in it,
Yeah.
And it really is a testament to sort of the brief period where Jean-Claude Van Damme was a highly paid, in-demand action star.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was, again, his presence in this movie was part of the list of requirements.
Right.
And so again, this is Capcom sealing their own fate.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you needed a familiar face. You could, again, Mortal Kombat went with largely unknowns,
Uh-huh.
and it did just fine.
Right.
I am actually kind of curious, like in terms of box office overall, like how did Mortal Kombat do? That came out.
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah,
Right?
comparing it to this, but it is. You can see then why. I mean, now with the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out a couple of years ago, the animated one, people are saying, "Oh, are video game movies suddenly good?" I mean, that was a long-standing belief that's like, well, video game movies just aren't good.
Right.
And that probably comes from, this sort of moment where these people just didn't quite capture whatever it is that people were looking for. Fans of the games hoping to see versions of those games as movies. They just they didn't nail it, and there was a long stink following that.
See, this is interesting to me because it says here, okay, so this is Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat cost $20 million.
Okay.
So quite a bit cheaper than this one.
Mm-hmm.
And it made $73 million domestically and $52 million internationally.
Wow.
So quite a big hit. But Street Fighter made, so it against a $35 million budget, it made $33 million. So it didn't even make its budget back.
Domestically, right?
Yeah, domestically. And then it all told internationally, factor that, and it made about a little under $100 million. See, and that is interesting in the sense that, like, what was it? What was it about this that turned people off? And with Mortal Kombat, where people were like, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think back, to be honest, because I was close to the target audience at the time.
Yeah.
But maybe I just didn't take it seriously.
Yeah.
It didn't look like...
I mean, you were aware of when this movie came out.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I was like 14. I mean, I was... And
you were like, and you're part of the audience for the game.
Love the game. Yep.
And you're like, I'm going to pass on that movie.
But the same year, I remember really loving The Crow.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump, True Lies, Speed. This might have just seemed a little too silly for me or something.
Oh, and here we go with the, we thought the MCU invented post-credit scenes.
Yeah, I read that there was one, but I didn't see it. I turned it off before we got
you turned it off before we... this is just like Masters of the Universe before this. It's a scene letting us know that the bad guy is still out there.
Do we even see him, or is it just a fist?
No, it's just a little like it says like reboot, world domination. Right. So were they to do a sequel, you could essentially, have somebody else play Bison.
Right.
And there we go. Of course, the sequel never happened, and not terribly surprising there.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Well,
that was Street Fighter.
That's Street Fighter. That was fun talking through it with you.
Well, to quote Guile in this movie, I'm the MasterCard representative, and are you the one who handles bills in the house or something? I don't know.
Right. I'm concerned there are some fraudulent charges.
I kind of wish they would have just kept leaning into these very specific. It's just like Van Damme having dealt with loan sharks, and it's just lines reflecting that.
Right. It informs all his metaphors.
This is family court. You're overdue on your alimony payments.
Right.
But hey, I know there's many people who are in our audience who love this movie. So please let us know your thoughts on our thoughts. You can email us at moviefilmpodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit like on our Facebook page, facebook.com/moviefilmpodcast, and message us there. If you're looking for me online, you can find me on social media at Zacky's Corner. That's ZAKIS Corner. Hey, we also have a Patreon feed, Brian.
That's right. At patreon.com/moviefilm podcast, you can find all the commentaries we have ever done. And there are a lot of them without any ads. And every regular episode and every commentary we will ever do in the future, all of them will be ad free if you subscribe for $5 a month over at patreon.com/moviefilm podcast. It's very helpful for us. It helps support producing the show because there are some costs involved in producing this, and it also helps support and sustain us. And so we really appreciate it.
We really do. And here's one more commentary to add to the pile. And really, do you want to listen to this interrupted by commercials?
I know. Yeah, I mean, we've said it over and over, but we don't insert those ads. They get inserted willy-nilly and frequently. So we're thankful for the advertisers, but we also wanted to offer a way for people to be able to listen to us talk through Street Fighter without any interruptions.
You're damn right. To quote Van Damme, we're the repo man, and if you don't pay up, you're out of business.
You're right.
Or something.
Something.
But hey, we'll be back soon with our next regular show and our next commentary. With that, on behalf of my partner Brian Hall, my name is Zach Azon. This has been our movie film commentary for Street Fighter. You're out of business.
Bills due at the end of the month.
Now that we're done, you can all go home.
Yeah.